Welcome to Pivotalogic Tech Talk featuring Philly G. Tech Talk offers great technology insights and experts to keep IT simple for your business.
Hello, everybody. It's me again, Philly G. Bold, courageous, and battle ready. Welcome to Pivotalogic Tech Talk Online. I'm here with my favorite cup of coffee, Bold 3 Coffee. Yes, it's the medium roast Eagle Wings. So I love this coffee. It's organic, fair trade, and roasted right here in Minnesota. So check it out, bold3.org. Get your favorite cup of coffee. If you haven't met me, I'm the CIO of Pivotalogic. My job is to use my 20-plus years of technology and business experience and help customers just like you design, build, and implement their technology plans. I just hope everyone is doing well and winning the war against COVID-19. Our thoughts and prayers are with the frontline workers caring for those impacted by this virus and those that have lost loved ones. We also have a special guest, Jim Nash, Information Security Evangelist from FRSecure, a local Midwest security firm, joining the show a bit later. So we're excited to have Jim on board. So for the next 20 minutes, we're going to be focused on keeping IT simple and secure by practical straight tech talk from the technology experts on how to solve your IT challenges with practical advice and expert recommendations. So let's get started. So I wanted to give a quick overview of how we help our clients through a proven process to get the results you need, whether it's cost savings, increased security posture, data protection, or if you're looking to move some legacy systems to the cloud. We have a battle-tested process as a result of helping hundreds of customers by understanding where they are in their IT journey and helping to provide expert resources or managed IT services to meet the needs of the business. So if you look at this slide, depending on where you're at in the IT maturity scale at the bottom, you'll fall into one of these categories. So knowing where you're at will save you time and money and not fall victim to point solutions or siloed organizations. We see it all the time, ultimately costing you time, money, and increased risk. For additional information, you can visit pivotalogic.com. So with that being said, I'm excited to bring on today's expert guest, Jim Nash, Information Security Evangelist at FRSecure. Howdy, Jim. How are you?
Good afternoon, morning, or whatever time you're listening to this. Thanks for having me on today.
You bet, Jim. Thanks for joining. We're super excited to join Pivotalogic Tech Talk Online. We've done quite a bit of these with Bob Sansevier in a studio for the BS show. And then we have our new building here in Maple Grove, Minnesota. We have an amazing room downstairs. We're going to do live events with 3 or 4 technology experts and do a workshop down there. But with COVID-19, we're going to do this online for now. So, Jim, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about FRSecure, it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to the day where I can join you in your office as opposed to sitting in our home offices, probably still in our pajamas at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. But yeah, so my name's Jim Nash. I work for a local company here in Minnesota, Upper Midwest, called FRSecure, and I am the Information Security Evangelist. So I fly around the country and talk to lots of different trade shows and lots of different symposiums about the need for information security. And, I have that life. I also have another life where I serve in the Minnesota legislature, and I actually beat the drum about cybersecurity down there as well, and have been fortunate enough to implement some serious change at the state of Minnesota. Was asked by Governor Walz to be his commissioner of IT. I declined, but ultimately had that turn into the creation of the governor's Blue Ribbon Council on IT Reform, where I have been driving the cybersecurity aspects of that. I serve on several boards around our country and around the state on cybersecurity. I am on Metro State University's MinCyber program. I am on the national group of national legislators for the Cybersecurity Task Force. That group is called NCSL. And generally, if you give me a few minutes, I'll nerd you up with talking cybersecurity, because at FRSecure, we are really all about changing what we call a broken industry. And I think that brokenness comes down to the simplicity of information security, but how complicated it is at the same time, and that we're all speaking very, very different languages. So we try to create a common basis from which we can all move forward and secure our organizations from there. So that's me.
Thanks, Jim. That's fantastic. And the good news, our listeners have an opportunity to meet Jim and the Philly G live. So we'll get on a call with you, understand what are some of your challenges, and figure out how we can help you out from a security, availability, and put you in a better position to be better prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal, is to make you more secure.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jim. We're honored to have you today. So today's Tech Talk, it's entitled COVID-19, Navigating the Unknown. Do we need to be better prepared? So I think a lot of the unknownness is what I hear from people. We don't know much about the virus. We don't know how long it will last. Should we go back to work or stay home? A lot of talk about should we wear a mask or not, but I guess, Jim, one of the big questions is, when do I get my next haircut?
Yeah, right now I am wearing a hat my son in the Navy sent me, and I think we are all wearing way more hats and probably using way more hair product than we ever have before. The question is, I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I hope it's soon. And yeah, we're all curious and scared and trying to react to the virus as best we can. All the while trying to cling on to some of that normalcy from our work life. And we've got a lot of folks working from home, just like I am. You've maybe converted a spare bedroom, or you're sitting at the kitchen table doing your thing. And I think that today's talk should help a lot of those people who are doing their thing, but maybe aren't thinking top of mind about security. So yeah, we do need to be better prepared. And I think that both from an individual's perspective and from a corporate perspective, folks need to be paying way more attention to the security component of their day-to-day work life.
And I think these concerns are valid and questions that people have, because there are a lot of unknowns, but from a technology perspective, it's not really new to us. We deal with emergencies, disasters, viruses, and security attacks every day. And as professionals, we're expected to be prepared. So I think you're right. Today's going to be a really good opportunity to get insights and get some recommendations of how to be better prepared, not only for COVID-19, for any other ransomware attack, any other disaster, anything that may happen. I've been at this for a long time. I was at SunGuard in 2006. And I've been evangelizing for over 15 years on being better prepared. So I think some organizations are prepared, some have plans, but the problem is no one's really tested the plan. They don't know if it works or it doesn't work. And with the lack of IT resources and lack of time and money, we're bringing some really great opportunities for people to have a better plan, be better prepared. So today we're going to talk about COVID-19 technology, facts, and figures we're seeing since March. We're going to talk about how the COVID-19 response and how technology is playing a really big role in COVID-19. We're going to talk about what did we get right, and Jim, what did we get wrong, and how can we be better prepared for future pandemics, security attacks, and disasters, and we're going to talk about next steps.
Perfect.
We're going to go to the next slide is COVID-19 technology, facts, and figures, and this is kind of what we've seen since March. We took a stab at 3 or 4 of these major components we've seen since March. So I'm going to pop up like 3 of these. And Jim, if you want to talk to us about what you've seen since March and this kind of increased risk and kind of ransomware activity and what you see your customers really being concerned about.
Yeah, on number 1, I think what we've seen is a huge increase in the number of attacks. And I think it's a misnomer that people think, well, if I'm maybe sheltered at home, so are the bad guys. And that's just not the case. The certified bad guys, as I call them, are working overtime because they recognize that now most of the employees, or many employees, are working from home. And even if your company has opened back up, not everybody may be back in the office. And that location that they're working from, if they're on a home router or they're not VPNing into the company, that provides a really nice soft underbelly for them to attack. And they also go down the road of being very smart. And please don't ever think that hackers are smart folks. They think very long and hard. In a way, they almost have a marketing angle to them as well. So they're doing way more phishing attacks, and a lot of them are focused around getting you to be afraid of COVID-19 and sending malicious links inside COVID-19 material. So both phishing emails, but also there were some interactive maps that we saw early on that if you began clicking on the map online, it was loaded with malware and would inject that into your computer. So very, very smart. They're thinking about how do they best compromise you. And I got to say, they're winning. We've had a good number of incident response engagements with folks when people, and I always say this, don't click on stuff, just don't. But they clicked on things, and bad stuff happened as a result of that. So way more attacks than we've ever seen.
I saw an FBI report the other day, a cyber hack attempts quadrupled during COVID-19. So it kind of backs up your kind of thought process around people working from home, and they really get comfortable, I think, because they just, don't always think about being secure, being at home. The dog is barking, the kid is crying, what's for lunch? I got to go mow the lawn. There's a lot of distractors. Unless you work from home and really are disciplined and have a consistent schedule, you can be thrown off pretty easily by that. And our fourth point is that 26% of employees surveyed feel isolated when they work remotely, and 41% don't feel connected to their colleagues. So I believe in that. So isolation is not a good thing. I mean, being alone for a long period of time gets your mind to really wander. And I think, Jim, when we go and work with customers to do some type of transformation, let's say it's like taking legacy systems and move them to the cloud, and a lot of times they have lost employee productivity. And if it's at like 15%, we're like, oh boy, that's a big red flag. We could save like 2 or 3 million. But what do you think, is the lost productivity working from home now? I mean, it's got to be pretty big.
Well, I think you're right. So at this very moment, my dog is in my office, and my kids are doing their homework from home. And if you're at the home, you're going to probably say, kitchen needs a little bit of cleaning, or as you said, the yard needs mowing, or I have to shuttle a kid to work. If you're in the office, none of those things are happening. So as a result, yes, we are seeing a productivity decrease. But I also talk to some folks who become that homework warrior, and they thrive. They're like, hey, I don't have to talk to Bob or Sam or whoever at the cube, and I can sit down and bang through my work in 6 hours, whereas before, in my 8-hour workday, I felt like I was wasting some of my time. I enjoy the social aspect of being at work, and I think that's important as humans, but from a productivity perspective, some people thrive working from home. Those people are the ones who are probably not also the vector of compromise for home security risks, because if they're that dedicated, you tell them to do X, Y, Z, and they'll do it every single time. I think it's that person that sometimes gets a little complacent, misses the workplace, and begins that inflection point for compromise by just being that social animal that they normally are.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think that, this could be more people working from home. I feel it's going to be an alternative that companies are going to allow it. But this is really important then to secure it, lock down, really implement your security policy over work from home and at the office. So this is pertinent that we kind of put a plan together to make sure that they're secure and their employees are safe.
I'll share a quick story from a friend of mine who happens to be the CIO of the state of North Dakota. Mm-hmm. They found that they needed to rapidly deploy a number of VPNs once the shelter-in-place order came, and they stood up literally thousands of VPNs. And I think what we're going to wind up seeing is that companies are going to see that there is value in having people work at home, but there's also going to be a cost. And part of that cost is understanding what does it mean to secure a home worker. So, providing some good analysis so that people understand, okay, what is it that I really need to be secure in my home workplace? Because I do think we're going to see an increase of people saying, Bob, Sally, John, Ed, you work great from home. Here's your new reality, and here are the things that we need to talk about. So I think that we're going to really see an increase of people staying at home, and I think that that's going to be an interesting thing from a security and backup and recovery and data management perspective. So I think it's going to be fascinating times for companies like ours as we head forward.
It's a really good point. Thank you, Jim. So we wanted to quickly cover off on COVID-19 response from a technology perspective and kind of talk to the timeline and how we responded from a technology perspective, what we did right, what we got wrong. So here's kind of like it was on March 13th that Governor Walz declared state of emergency over COVID-19. We had the stay-at-home order issued, non-essential companies closed, remote worker chaos. So, Jim, we saw a lot of chaos and people scrambling, like we talked about, to get things set up. Looks like the state of North Dakota may have been better prepared than most, but we still need to do a better job. And I just don't think, in general, I just don't think people are prepared enough. I think there's some companies that are well prepared, but to my point earlier, only like 20% of these people test their plan, and they don't really know where they stand. So if you don't know what's broke or where your weakness is or your vulnerabilities, we need to have more testing, more assessments to understand where you're at in your state, and then improve on that state over time and have an evolving plan.
I totally agree. And I think you had touched on it earlier that folks like you and I and our team at FRSecure, we think about these things regularly. And we think about, okay, what if somebody is on the road and they're at a trade show out in San Francisco? Let's say they go to VMware or EMC or whatever. They go there. We think about how do we secure the device that they're on, and now we're looking essentially at most of our workforce being remote, and we're probably not thinking about that. And I would imagine that IT managers and CIOs and CISOs are pulling their hair out. So they're covered on the haircut thing because they've pulled it all out. But,
Right.
I think what we're going to see moving forward is companies being way more intentional about how do they deal with the non-centralized workforce. I think that's going to be really important, and I think that companies like ours are going to have a pretty substantial hand in helping people understand what do they need and cutting through a lot of the background noise so that you don't buy something that you don't need. And I think that's as important as anything else. But yeah, the state issued these orders, and I think a lot of people are scrambling. I think of the old Fred Flintstone cartoons where he's running above the air and his feet are moving furiously, but he's not getting anywhere. I think a lot of folks felt that way when the governors and the president issued these orders, and they were essentially saying, well, crap, now what? I don't even know what to do. Which way is up? That's the thing that we have to get solved, is how do we help people plan for the unseen and yet probably reliably predictable next thing's going to happen. If we have another wave this fall or some new thing comes up, people need to be planning for this and be ready to go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I just, if you get nothing out of this tech talk, one thing I want to get across to technology leaders or owners of companies is that this is an opportunity to put together kind of a what do we need, what do we do good, what we didn't do so good, and go to your CFO and say, hey, I need to have a technology preparedness plan that's going to cost $15,000, and here's the benefit, and here's why I need it. This is a perfect opportunity to be able to do that, because right now people are saying, okay, how can I be better prepared? And the fact is that if we don't get better prepared, your business is at high risk of not even being around. I mean, I don't want to be a doomsdayer guy, but I'm telling you, if you get a intersection of COVID-19 impact and ransomware, you can pretty much say you're going to be out and potentially out of business for forever. So with that, we wanted to go to the next point was that the good news back in April 23rd, Governor Walz allows companies to open with strict guidelines on non-customer facing businesses. Pivotalogic, we're back to work. We don't have any customer facing people come in the office anymore. With that, Jim, I think there was a COVID-19 preparedness plan that was put together by, I believe, the state. And it was mainly, Jim, what was it? Mainly a health checklist, right?
Yeah, it's rules of engagement for how to return to work, and I think that was a very good plan. But I also wonder if the euphoria of getting back to work has maybe cut through some of those intentional plans. But yeah, it's they have to screen their employees, health screenings, temperature checks, more hand washing stations, making sure that they understand and log where people have gone, who they interact with. And for those that don't need to be in the building, they are encouraging people to work from home. I do know that at the time that we are recording this, we are likely to hear from the governor that we may be extending the stay-at-home order, and I think that that's going to have an impact as well. Again, my argument on a lot of this is the longer you're at home, the more complacent you're going to be, and that complacency drives laziness from the things that at work you would never do. For example, at FRSecure, if you leave your computer unlocked, we do a thing called Biebering people. So we take a picture of Justin Bieber and splash it on your screen, and we'll send out an email to the entire company with a picture of Justin Bieber from your email, just to say, hey, you need to be disciplined and lock your computer because you might have access to something that another employee doesn't, and allowing that data to potentially leave your company is your responsibility, and you need to take it seriously. So the folks at home, I think, are becoming a little more complacent. And as we had talked about with the increase in attacks, what we're going to see is people are now more prone to becoming lazy, click on things, download things, watch a lot of videos. I have disappointed many friends who send me in the various messenger apps links to videos, and they say, hey, you never responded to that video I sent you. I said, yeah, I deleted it. Sorry. And they said, well, why would you do that? I was just trying to make you laugh, man. I said, well, I don't know who made that video and what's in that video. But I think that's a perfect example, Phil, is that folks, they're letting their guard down, and the planning that we encourage people to do needs to be driven home on a regular basis. So that intentionality and that regular input, I think, is important. And that's what I know both your company and mine drive home to our customers is it's a minute by minute, day by day thing, and you can't get lazy.
Well, it's interesting news that they're going to extend the work from home, and it says on here to continue to work from home whenever possible. But there appears to be somewhat of a flaw with the plan, not necessarily bad, but it doesn't really address this work from home and the increased burden on small, medium IT staff to support remote and office workers during the return to work transition. So this is something that we see as an opportunity to be better prepared, better secure, better employee productivity, better security posture, and we work together to put together kind of a COVID-19 technology preparedness plan that we're going to talk about now with some options. So we're going to go to that. Yeah. So here it is, a battle-tested 4-step process. So first one, Jim, if you want to cover this one, remote worker security review.
Sure. And I think this is as simply defined as, if you don't know what your current environment looks like, how do you secure it? So at FRSecure, we have a battle-tested time, now almost 11, 12 years, an approach that is a numeric scoring of your security posture and your environment. So it's much like your personal credit score, and we come in and we evaluate, and we do the risk assessments, which is important. And we look at gaps and holes in the plan and give not just recommendations, but almost a map of how to increase your security score, and by increasing your security score, your security posture. And some of them are as simple as, do you have two-factor authentication? What are you doing to secure the edge? What do all the different things that you and I talk about as if everybody talks about them, but then you go home and talk to your spouse or your neighbor and they look at you like you've got a third arm coming out of your chest. Those are the things that we're trying to drive home to people. But to do that, understanding the total risk posture of both the remote employee and the company itself is pretty much the basis of any improvement we would recommend making. So that risk assessment is something that we do hundreds of a year. And I think it's super important for your listeners to understand that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that comes from the industrial engineering world, where my wife comes from. Is if you're unable to measure whatever it is that you're dealing with, you can't get your arms around it. So that FRSecure security risk assessment and the numeric values are a great place to start for people. And I think that's an important first step.
Yeah, a lot of customers, say, hey, we're good with security. We do quite a bit. We have a firewall. We've done a pen test, but I think really trying to look at how you compare to industry, how you compare to your peers. I know that you have this kind of a scorecard and road mapping kind of process. Can you talk a little bit about that scorecard and how you compare, how people would compare it against their peers and industry standards? That's interesting.
Yeah. Compare it to your credit score compared to your neighbors. Some people are doing it very, very well, and they could get a loan for pretty much any amount that they want because they're being diligent. We do compare industries. We do compare folks regionally and nationally. And quite honestly, I love it when people say, "Oh, we put so much effort behind security. We're so good at this." And I chuckle because I know that they are probably a very high probability of compromise. And I will tell you, often it comes from the C-suite, and people say, "Oh, we're so good and we're doing great," and they remember a board meeting that they talked about security briefly, so they figure that they must be good. It is a daily thing that you have to be diligent on. To your point from earlier, you have to spend some money. There is a requirement to be secured. And we've all sat in those boardrooms, and you have people that come and ask for money for this and ask for money for that, and they give you a forecast of sales and all this. One of the big security breakdowns is in properly funding it from the board level. And right. I think many times the board is composed of people who might not be day-to-day people at the company, and they would rather talk about what are we doing to equip sales, and what are we doing to equip marketing. They don't often talk about how do we spend money for security. And that's why the numeric values that we assign so resonates with people. Because if you're talking to one of your adult kids, and I have a couple of adult kids, and you say, well, hey, your credit score is like a 400. You couldn't buy gum on credit if you had to. Right. The same resonates with people with security. If you say, well, okay, Mr. CEO or Mr. President, we looked at your security posture and you're incredibly porous, and here's where that is, and you plunk down this report and you show them on this this very consistent report mechanism that is based on several standards, NIST being one of them. They finally get it, and their eyes light up, and they have this weak in the knees moment, and they will often sit down or grab onto something more stable to hold themselves up, because they finally realize that this company that they built is firing on all cylinders. It's going really well, but they've left part of the store completely unattended, and that's the virtue of the security score.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. The next bullet point is the remote worker plan, which is just making sure that you have a plan for your remote workers, make sure their policies and procedures remain productive through proactive insights into end user experience. So really, I had a customer when this first started, they had 168 open tickets, trouble tickets, and they couldn't get through them. 2 of their employees were out sick that week too. So knowing on how to isolate the issue and where the issue may be, and having more proactive insight into that experience, all the way from their phone to their PC to their router, into the edge, into the internet, into the applications, can really help troubleshoot that much more quickly and be proactive in that approach as well. So having that whole thing documented from a security, from a technology perspective, end user experience, and application performance is critical. Third is the data protection review. Obviously, we had talked about that, having a current backup and recovery plan in place to protect from ransomware. Just about, I would say 3 weeks ago, we had a customer come to us, and they had 3 or 4 different point solutions. They didn't have a real good backup methodology, but we came in less than 48 hours. We were able to back up all their sites on premise. It was like 6 terabyte of data, and then we also replicated to the cloud, and then it freed up so much time that he could go on and do other things that were more important through this COVID-19. Really having a good data protection plan, and really the automation is the big key to it. And
absolutely.
The last one, Jim, you want to talk to the action plan? Just in general, I think having a documented action plan and written technology preparedness plan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And think of it as if you're driving into the office on a Monday morning and your tech person calls you and says, "Hey, boss, we've been compromised." And most folks don't have a plan. You know, we have a plan for what happens if a flood comes or a tornado comes, or, you know, if Godzilla comes out of Lake Superior and comes to squash us all. We've thought about many of those things, but most folks have not thought about what happens if their environment or their network or their computers are completely locked up. Use the example of the cities of Atlanta or the cities of Baltimore. Both of those had really bad plans. They didn't even know, the totality of what they owned. Well, that's easily solved, and we can help you with an incident response plan. We can come in and work with you to understand the very basics and say, if something happens, here's your step-by-step process. It's almost in emergency break glass, take out this plan and lay it on the table and begin executing the plan. It's that simple. And if you don't have it, I think that you're going to wind up losing time, and as we know, time is money. So
there's a lot of projects. Go ahead, Jim.
No, well, simply hoping that something won't happen is not a proper plan. Praying that certainly we're not that big of a player, or people like us, they're not going to attack us. All of those things need to be dismissed. If you're connected to the internet in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you're a target. And that's why having an action plan is so important.
Yeah, we see that every day. I mean, these point solutions and siloed IT, it's really hard to test, really hard to recover, and we're just kind of asking for trouble. So we want to have a plan, but to start that plan, we got to start somewhere. So we don't typically, throw pricing out there, but we know that this is kind of a unprecedented time, and everybody's kind of scrambling. So we're going to pull up our virtual proposal, and we're giving an opportunity to save some money. Everybody likes to save money. So in this chart on the far left is the technology preparedness plan. It's $15,000 and includes security risk assessment, data protection review, remote worker plan, and technology preparedness plan, which is basically an incident response plan of what to do at time of disaster. And then if you already have, let's say, data protection or remote worker plan in place, you can go to the right and get a security risk assessment for $7,500, and it'll include an action plan with that. Or if you want to do just a data protection review, that's $7,500, and remote worker plan is $7,500. So we have lots of options there, and really, like I said before, is use this as a business case to get funding, because now is the time to strike. People are like, what do I do? How do I invest to have a better work from home experience? How do I reduce my risk? A perfect time right now. We can get together, put together a quick proposal within 1 day. We have it back to you. You can present it. We can help present it if you need help with that. This will improve your security posture. You'll have a documented and testable plan. You'll have data protection and keep your employees secure, and really ensure employee productivity either at home or in the office. So with that, we wanted to thank everybody today. We just wanted to thank Jim. What a great opportunity to hear his wisdom, and did a really great job. If you want to get more information, you can visit us at pivotalogic.com/contact. You can schedule some time with myself and Jim. We'll jump on a quick call and we'll just listen, and we'll figure out what we can do. So thank you very much for attending Pivotologic's Tech Talk, and have a blessed day. Thank you, Jim. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks so much.